Oh, there you are. I lost you for a second there. What's happening, bro?
What's happening, bro? But ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Jonny Candido, man. And yes, the name is familiar. He is the younger brother of Chris Candido, by the way.
What's up, guys?
What's up? What is going on, bro? So speaking of Jonny Candido, man, the spotlight, man, we got the Candido that's still here. But hey, let's talk about what got you into the wrestling business.
Well, what got me into the wrestling business was my older brother, man. He was like, growing up, he's 10 years older than me. I mean, to me, he was freaking Superman. You know what I mean? So whatever he did, I wanted to do. If he was going to be a fucking professional baccarat player, I'd do that. If you want, you know what I'm saying? Like if he played racquetball, I'd be following him around with a racket. But he wanted to do the wrestling, so that's what I wanted to do. Also, my brother was such a fucking awesome guy. You know, I miss him every fucking day. He's the best.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of those undersized wrestlers that was definitely exciting to watch during the younger days, man. When I was watching wrestling, he was one of those guys that got into a lot of these mid-card matches and a bunch of other stuff. He had some pretty good matches on he had some good. Oh yeah, but he had some good matches on ECW mostly. But when I seen some of his matches, like where he was tag teaming with, what is it, Tom Pritchard? They had this thing called the Body of Honest.
Yup, I think so. It's so crazy to think about it because my brother started wrestling like professionally when he was 13. Like he started like running shows in town, like in Spring Lake. He set up a ring in the park. Him, Bam Bam Bigelow, who's like my uncle. He'd be on the show. Balls Mahoney, who's from a town to the north of us, would be on the show. So my brother, who was 13, Balls was 13. Bammer was, I want to say 21. Balls looked like he was 20. He was 21. It was funny. My brother had my brother looked like a regular kid. Balls had like a fucking beard and chest hair and shit. It was funny. But so they started wrestling, when they were 12, 13. And then there'd be these, like any indie show, like locally, they'd go to this one place in Brooklyn all the time. My brother and his one buddy would say they were sleeping over each other's houses. My brother would get on the bus with his buddy Scott. They'd go to Brooklyn, have these crazy matches in these bars, get fucking color, be bleeding, everything. Next day, they just wash off their gig marks, come back home like they were just at a regular sleepover. Meanwhile, they're, running around doing all this crazy shit. So, yeah, he was, from day one, that's all my brother cared about was being a professional wrestler. And he was, so driven. So...
But it was a part of the business when it was like somebody in your other family did it before, right?
Yeah. To keep it simple, yes. A grandfather. It's not exactly blood, but yes, for all intents and purposes, my grandfather did it, and that's who turned my brother onto it. So by the time my brother, he was telling me, he's like, I can remember being like 7 or 8 and being over the grandfather's Chuck Popeye Richards. He's like, I was over Chuck Popeye Richards' house, and I'd see all these like big muscled up dudes with like tattoos and long hair and beards. He's like, I'm not sure what they did. He's like, I just wanted to be one of those like cool dudes. And he's like, then I found out what they did, and he was hooked from there. And then from there he just started. From the 70s up to the 2000s, I have every single wrestling magazine ever. Like that. Like there's like you saw on the Dark Side of the Ring when I showed the people that like little room at our parents' house. In there is every wrestling magazine you could think of, all posters from old shows, just like so much stuff collected all over the years. I never touched it. I just left it all up in my brother's old room to keep it like that,
That's a museum cave in a way, if you put it that way, yeah.
It really is. It's funny. There's a picture of like me and him from, I don't know, maybe he was 15 and I was 5, and there's like a WrestleMania 1 hat sitting on the bed. I just found it sitting there the other day. It's like still up in his bedroom. Like it's like it really is like a museum. There's WrestleMania hats, VIP, backstage passes to all these different shows. Like you just find like random shit up there. It's like a museum,
Yeah, it's got to be like one of those where people get to see what he was. I mean, a lot of the other young generation are not too familiar with your brother, but I mean, seeing him from the short time I got to see him, I mean, in matches, like during the early 90s or mid 90s, he was breaking into the business, but he was working with a lot of good talent like Chris Jericho, quite a few other dudes. I mean, he was a high flyer. So there was
he like there was that group of like young guys, like you said, like Jericho, Lance Storm, my brother, Van Dam, Sabu. They were all kind of like the standouts from their region, and they all kind of like came together in Smoky Mountain, and had some great matches. Like it's like all those guys from that time, they were athletic enough to do the high flying moves, and they also kind of got the psychology, of the business, and I felt like, thinking about it now, that made them, a lot better than just somebody who could do moves. They kind of understood what they were doing. Like for instance, the Jersey style, just when my brother was coming up, was more high flying, hard hitting, like that. He went down to Tennessee right after high school. Let's say he wrestled Tracy Smothers. Tracy Smothers went to the outside. My brother hit the ropes, did a fucking helo over the top ropes. The crowd didn't react at all. Jim Cornette said, "Don't do that. Don't beat yourself up. Next time, baseball slide out, miss Tracy, get mad, kick the ring steps, and sell your foot." And he did, kicked the ring steps, sold his foot, and they're all, boo, crybaby. That got over more than the high-flying, spectacular stuff, So he kind of learned there to kind of like work smarter rather than harder,
I guess your brother was a risk taker from the looks of it, but I mean, there's a lot of these wrestlers who do exactly similar to what Chris does, if not any explosive. I mean, you see a lot of these high flyers do a lot of those type of risk taking moves, but like how you said, Jim Cornette is more of an old school approach guy. A lot of these guys can save their bodies if they do it the right way,
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of guys, you'd be surprised how many of like today's top guys DM me and they're like, "Dude, I just got to tell you that your brother like was such a big influence on my career. Like when I was just a young guy coming up, he took the time to like watch my match, talk to me, tell me what I did right, what I did wrong. I studied his work, and this is like on a weekly basis. People are hitting me up telling me this stuff. So it's really cool because my brother, like I said, he loved the business, and he was one of those guys. He was very, I think it's because like where we grew up, like we're just known around town, not for being pro wrestlers, just because we know everybody. It's a small town. So when he'd come back home from wherever he was just Chris who hung out at the South End Beach. You know what I mean? Like he never got a big head about being a wrestler. He was always like such a super cool dude to everyone, and always had time to spend with people asking advice or fans wanting pictures or whatever. He was just like, he really was like one of a fucking kind,
I mean, he had to be like such a cool story. Like, it's like one of those guys that talks about these little highlight stuff. And he's probably one of those dudes that says, "Man, it's nothing to me, man. It's nothing."
Yeah. And with him, he was like I said, just tunnel vision on being a pro wrestler from the time he was 13. If he wasn't wrestling, he was like, doing like, he was writing bookings down in in his notebook. And then he was putting together his highlight compilations to send away to people. Like he just had a one-track mind, wrestling. And then working out was, goes hand in hand, but it was just wrestling and working out for him. That was it,
Then he trained you, huh, at that point?
What's that?
Didn't he train you or something?
Yeah, so with me, I always hung around the business, and I would train with him all the time, lifting weights. And I wanted to be a boxer, right? That was like my thing. I wanted to be a boxer. I would, be in the gym, learning my, my jabs, straight rights, bam, bam, bam. I got good. And I'm like, yo, I want to be a fucking professional boxer. And he's like, dude, don't do that. Because the way I fought was more like a dog. I would take one to give one, but I had power. My brother's like, dude, you're going to get Parkinson's. You're going to scramble your brain. Come wrestle. And the first time I did, I gave him a ride to the show in Rochester. I was probably 19. And I was there with him. He's like, yeah, I don't think I know any of these guys. I'm just going to wrestle you in the main event. I'm like, really? Is that like cool? He's like, yeah. Just keep your ears open. The finish will be a sunset flip. And we did. And we had that match. And after that, I kind of, he trained me like as far as I'd get into the ring, take bumps before the shows and stuff like that. But I want to say my first like 15 matches were against him, where, he could really, like, when they say people could work with a broomstick, it's like I was that broomstick, except I like threw punches and would like suplex him and shit. But then I got comfortable working, and then I started, working with other guys I knew, and then I think by like 03, 04 is when I really started like wrestling like full time. But yeah, I broke in working with him, and then with Balls, and then I just, it's a lot easier to work with guys that you know and you're friendly with.
And the ones you don't know. Yeah.
What's that? Yeah,
it's
in the
good.
beginning anyway,
Yeah, in the beginning, then you have to start to get accustomed to different styles of wrestling. But speaking of the best match you did, I mean, wasn't it like against Balls Mahoney, right?
Yeah, I'll say the one that was. There were two that were the best, but the one that was match of the year 2004, on the Declaration of Independence, it was crazy because it was a local crowd. That's what made it like even more insane. We were down here at the Jersey Shore, and it was like probably 3/4 my friends, a quarter Balls people, and we were the main event. It was a tables match, and I remember looking and seeing like a bunch of people. Then when I came out, they took all the chairs up. It was standing room only, and it was me and Balls. And I look through the crowd, and all I see is all of my friends going freaking crazy. And I remember I shot him in, gave him a shoulder tackle. The place went fucking insane. And anyway, we did a bunch of spots. I superplexed him through the table, and then for the finish, he got me on the top rope. He gave me the nutcracker off the top rope through a table. The place went insane, and that was one of my favorite matches. And it was just like the crowd was like so electric, And me and Balls always just had great matches together because he's a freaking maniac. And sometimes before the matches, I would get so mad. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker when I see him in there. Because he'd be out like selling like his pictures, 8x10, stuff like that. And I'd be like, man, and mind you, like, so this what I'm talking about is we had a cage match, right? Me and Balls. And before it, he's like, oh, I have a couple ideas about the finish. I was thinking maybe I could do the nutcracker off the top of the cage, or you do the swanton, go through the cage, I'll duct tape you to the cage, drop a leg on it, or I'll throw you. So I'm still green. Like, he has all these finishes in his mind, and I can't talk to him because he's outside among the people. He'd come in and take a leak or something. I'm like, dude, any idea what you want to do for the finish? He's like, not right now. And he'd go out. I'm like, I'm going to fucking kill this guy. So when he came back in, we talked over our finish. Our match was I remember after, he's like, damn, dude, you were really like, out there tonight. Because I was so mad. So the finish was, I miss a swanton off the top of the cage through a table. Then he takes me, Balls duct taped me to a table, and then he started climbing to the top of the cage. I remember laying on the table, duct taped to it, looking up at him. And what I was thinking was, I'm like, all right, people who get in car accidents, when they're like relaxed and don't know what's coming, they don't get hurt. So I'm just going to pretend like I don't know when it's coming. And I did. And all of a sudden, boom, he hit me with a leg drop off the top of the cage. The table exploded. People were horrified in the crowd. Ball's mom was there, came running to the front of the cage. She's like, what, John, you killed him. So I just laid there. I let the ambulance come, put me in a freaking stretcher, take me out, the whole deal. All the boys are looking, all like concerned. When I got to the locker room, I'm like, I'm fine. It was, that was one of my favorite matches, the cage match with Balls.
Yeah, he was a pretty tough, big guy. So it was like you had some of your moment matches, but wasn't there like a couple of incidents with you and Balls Mahoney at that one point?
Oh, yeah. Well, me and him are close friends, and, close friends kind of, sometimes we have to, duke it out sometimes. The one that's the funniest is, so I think it's no secret that in wrestling, we take pain pills here and there, shit like that. And I was like, yo, John. So I stopped at his house earlier. I'm like, yo, let me get a couple of Vikes. He's like, yeah, no problem, JC. Gave me like 10, whatever. Friend of mine came over, and he's like, dude, you got any Vikes? I'm like, well, I don't, but John Balls does. He's like, all right, let's go over there. So I go to his house. I'm like, yo, let me get a couple more Vikes. He's like, I don't have any. I'm like, yeah, you do. I was just here like 2 hours ago. Like, let me get like 4. He's like, I don't have any. I'm like, all right, well, let me get a cigarette then. He's like, all right, they're in my bedroom. So I go into his bedroom, and sitting right there is a big bottle of Vicodin. I pop the top. I start dumping it in my hand. I hear, he's running. He goes, you're still on my medication. The two of us collide. I throw the pills in my mouth. My buddy's like 130 pounds. Pshum, he runs out of the fucking house. So Balls' house is small, so we're just like fucking fighting. We're not getting punches off. We're like strangling each other. Psh, break his kitchen apart. Glasses falling. Blah, 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 all this shit. So we get to the front door, and he's like, I know I'm in the wrong. He's like, get out of here. You're still on my medication. I'm like, all right, I'm leaving. He's like, get the fuck out of here. You're still on medication. I'm like, all right, dude. The fucking neighborhood doesn't need to know it. He's like, get out of here. You're still on my medication. I'm like, don't fucking say it again. He's like, get out of here. You're still on my medication. I'm like, cocksucker. I ran back in. I speared him into his couch. Fights on again. Through his house. Psh, psh, break the tables. Shit falling. Long story long, we fight into his room. And he's got like swords, daggers, and shit like on the wall. There's like a little space behind his bed. I get there. I'm like, so in my head, I'm like, if I wanted to, I could just open up on him right now. But I probably shouldn't because I'm in the wrong. We lock eyes. He grabs a sword off the wall and swings it right at my head. I slipped it. And then I'm like, really, dude? A fucking sword? Are you kidding me? Like, fuck you. We're not even friends anymore. And I left his house pretending to be like all pissed off. He's like, no, dude, come on. It's not like that. I didn't mean to swing the sword. I'm like, dude, we're just having a fight and you're going to start swinging swords at my head? Like, come on. And I acted like I was mad. And then I got like half block away and came back and we hugged it out. But yeah, me and him have torn a couple of rooms apart having fights with each other. But, you know, he was like another crazy brother of mine, you know?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Oh, here's an interesting question. He says, ask him what wrestler did he enjoy working with the most or wrestlers?
So I guess aside from my brother and Balls, Sandman. I really liked working with Sandman.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he was always one of those guys who was never the most technical. And he was like, smoke and mirrors, baby. And we would find like, I don't know. I always worked well with him. Trent Acid, I really liked working with him. So, and a lot of times also, like when I was coming up, I was wrestling like the legends, like Brutus Beefcake. I was the heel, and I'd be working like whoever they brought in: Lex Luger, Brutus Beefcake, Tito Santana, King Kong Bundy. I worked a ton of them, Kamala, all those guys from that era. And me and Brutus the Barber had like, I want to say a good 8 to 10 matches, and he let me call it. I had like this formula for this like perfect match that I'd have with all these guys. And we had like, I want to say 8 to 10 matches. And at the time, you saw the pictures, I had like that long blonde hair.
Yeah, long.
So at the end, when he'd be about to do the barber stuff, I'd fucking scoot out, and then a fucking heel manager would come in and get his fucking haircut. But I really enjoyed working with, like I said, like I loved working with Balls. I loved working with my brother, obviously, Axel Rotten, and then Brutus the Barber was really cool to work with, and Tom Brandy. You know, he was always really great to work with, and the Iron Sheik. He was my manager a lot of times, and he was just funny as hell to work with. Because, do you know anything about the Iron Sheik or no?
Yeah, the one with the camel clutch lock. He has like one of the best shoot interviews. Like he'll talk like straight up like, dude, this guy was like he was the longest reigning champion for a while before Hogan took the title.
And what's funny about him, like let's just pretend we're baby faces. He'd come to me. He called me Bambino because he couldn't say Candido. He's like, Bambino. He's like, what do I do? I'm like, you're just gonna come to the ring, say, oh, I'm very happy to be here in New Jersey. I'm happy to see the fans. I don't get into the ring. No, you don't get into the ring. Okay, what do I do? You're gonna come to the ring, say I'm very happy that I'm in New Jersey. We get out there. He takes the microphone. The first thing he does, fuck this Hulk Hogan piece of shit, motherfucker. He would just get the mic and just start yelling about Hulk Hogan, this piece of shit. I could break his back, but it's the business, blah, blah. Like anything we talked about was out the window. And I remember I was having me and Tom Brandy he was the Patriot, and the Sheik was my manager, and we were brawling outside the ring all over the place. Sheik was all excited that we were fighting all around. He grabbed a flag from somewhere, and he was chasing us, whacking the shit out of the two of us as we're trying to fight each other and run from the Sheik. So he's going, following us, hitting the two of us. Yeah, he was freaking funny, man. You know, he just passed away. I love that guy.
Not too long ago, yeah. He was a legendary wrestler. He had the longest reigning title, and he was a top heel during that time when Hogan beat him for that title.
And he was like a legit shooter. Like he won. I know he was in the Olympics for Iran. he was the bodyguard for the Ayatollah. Like he's like a legit, well, like fucking, a legit shooter. Even when he was older, he was a real tough guy.
Yeah, he had some good shit takes where he would always go at some wrestlers and say, "Oh yeah, fuck that guy, fuck that."
Oh, everyone you ask him, oh, how about Macho Man? Macho Man's number one versus Jabroni. How about Lex Luger's number one versus Jabroni?
Or if
how
you
about
bring, yeah,
B. Brian Blair fucking versus Jabroni? Everybody's a versus Jabroni. He like Bob Backlund.
and
I think that's about it.
And then when you bring up Vince Russo or other guys, says, fuck that Jabroni.
Fuck that Jabroni versus Jabroni, piece of shit, son of a bitch. You know what's funny? His like I want to say, I guess, like agent, this guy Eric Sims, would be the one that would get him from the airport, take him to the conventions and everything. And every time we'd see him, he'd say, "This Eric Sims, he'd take my money, he's stealing my money, he don't make the money." So I remember after a convention, we're out at a restaurant, we're drinking. I'm on one side of him, my brother's on the other side of him, and so we're outside earlier, and she's yelling, "This Eric Sim, he don't make the money. He says I can't smoke in the car. It's not a Rolls Royce." He was like yelling about it, right? So we get back in the restaurant, we're talking. Eric Sims is across from us. Anytime there was a lull in the conversation, I'd be like, "Sheik, you can't smoke in his car. What is it, a Rolls Royce?" Like, "It's not a Rolls Royce." And start yelling at the guy. And we kept, and Eric Sims was like, "Stop." And I was like, "Yeah, all right." I'm like, "Sheik, does he even make money? He don't make the money. You take my money, steal my money." He was the crib.
That's how he was. But I think we already mentioned this conversation before. I don't know if I'm mistaken, but also, what did wrestling and any professions did enjoy working for? Did WWE make any offers? Obvious, they made an offer for your brother, but I'm pretty sure he had.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know from my brother, I don't. He started working there when he was 23, 22, 23. Like, he was like super young, and it was.
He was greener too.
Yeah, but he'd been doing it since he was 13. Like, it was like breathing to him, So he was making really good money, and it would be like something like 14 grand a week, and then like 60 grand performance bonus at like a Survivor Series or a Royal Rumble or whatever. And then, when I started working there, it was more like I came in. It was right after he passed that I started working there, but Balls was like, "Me and you were going to be a tag team." And if my parents hated it. They're like, "Johnny, if you continue to wrestle, we can't." Like, it was either like, for me, it was like either my family or wrestling. So I like chose my family, and I stepped away from the business in like 2007. But yeah, of course my brother was making a ton of money up there, especially when he was the tag team champion, and yeah, it was great.
Yeah, he had a contract offer where he was being tag team with Tom Pritchard, and then Tammy was included, and they had the thing called the Body Adonis, and then the intro was very similar to Adriel Adonis's intro.
Yeah, it was. I think at the time, my brother had kind of only really been himself, like as far as the gimmick. He was Chris Candido. He was Mr. Charisma, which was just kind of him. Like the gimmick was him, but just kind of like a little bit more cocky. He didn't love the Body Donna's gimmick, but I think for him it was just kind of like paying his dues. Like, I'll do this, and then just to like, again, when he got hired there, he was 23, 22. Yeah, so he's like, "I'll do this. I'll pay my dues." And then after the Body Donna's thing ran its course, he was training The Rock. He was training Mark Henry. And I remember having this conversation with him. He was telling me the night he left for ECW, he's like, "They have me training these guys to be stars." He's like, "I have a short time in this business to make money and be a star. I don't want to make other people stars." Like, he loved The Rock and he loved Mark Henry and thought they were great. But he's like, "I want to be the guy that's out there being a star, making the money now." And that's when he jumped ship and went to ECW. I mean, there were other reasons too, but I remember talking to him about that. I mean, years later when he was 30, he's like, "Fuck, I should have just stayed there, trained those guys, got repackaged, and come back." But he was young and he just wanted to, go where he thought the best place was for him at the time. He
wanted to be utilized more, and he wanted to be more than just what he was. I mean, there was a lot of matches that he could definitely put on, some really good matches. But
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I'm pretty sure since you were wrestling for quite a while, which wrestler did you really hate it working with the most that gave you some pain or a little stiff or something like that?
So none of them did, but the one I was the most surprised about was Spike Dudley. He was fucking tough as shit, and I don't mean it in like a, I mean it in a good way. He was small and he was skinny. He was taller, but his little elbows would like land like right in the crease of your fucking forehead. He was. I'll tell you what, he was a lot tougher than you would think. Um, that's probably the most surprising one that and he was accurate as shit with a folding chair. Like, we could be brawling around somewhere, and he could be 10, whatever, 5, 10 yards away, fold the chair, throw it, it'd be perfectly right in the top of the head anytime. I could be inside the ring on the top rope, take a chair, fold it, throw it, poosh, right on the mark. And he was just tough. He was a strong guy. And I think
Yeah.
he's surprised. I didn't really hate working with anyone that anybody would know. I mean, like, there were some local guys who were like kind of a pain in the ass. Like my one buddy Thunderbolt, he was he's I don't know how to explain him. Um, I'd be like, yo, we'll tie you up, I'll shoot you in, drop down, leapfrog, drop kick. He's like, well, I do a drop kick, so I don't want you to do a drop kick. I'm like, all right, well, boom, 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 DDT. He's like, well, I do a DDT, so I don't want you to do a DDT. Like, there were some guys who were like, but people who would know. I think the one that was the most surprising, I think, to me, was Spike. 'Cause I'm like, damn, this fucking little guy's strong, and he's got these like, So yeah, there's no one I really hated working with at all.
No, I mean, I'm pretty sure Spike was like, I mean, I guess you can't underestimate the guy's size and the heart of a lion. The guy, I heard a lot of matches, he was tough as nails. Like,
Yeah.
there was this incident where Rene Dupree was explaining about that one match where Spike would have broke his neck, but he didn't, but he was okay at that point. But he made it look like legit from the bump. But
Yeah.
ooh, I don't know if this was true. I think WCW, I don't know if Eric Bischoff had rumors about not wanting Chris and Sonny in WCW.
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah, it could have been true. Like, to keep it a buck, like around that time, in WCW was like 2000. That's kind of when I was like graduating high school, and the year before, I was kind of more into like partying with like chicks and stuff than hanging out around like wrestling. So, but I heard that after, and it's true. I mean, at the time, my brother was dealing with his shit, and it was 2004 when he cleaned up his act. Like, it was literally, a couple incidents happened, and then just how I said on Dark Side of the Ring, the two of us were eating lunch, and he was like, he's like, dude, the guys on the fucking indies now, they don't look like athletes. Da 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 da. He's like, when I was 17, 18, I was already making moves, lifting weights. I looked like a professional athlete. I'm like, yeah, dude. That's why you fucking made it. That's why you were in WWE when you were fucking 20 years old,
And he had
He's like, I fucked everything up. And he just, from that day on, he just like stopped. He went to the doctor's office, got blood pressure pills, anti-seizure pills, and just quit everything. That's like right after Puerto Rico.
there was a lot of that work. Some of them even worked down Puerto Rico just to build up some matches out there. But ooh,
Yeah, I was there. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah. I mean, you were there, right? But
Yeah. Not for the entire time. I was there for like a couple months.
months. So, any managers that you liked in the business or any that were difficult to deal with? Ooh, I mean, didn't you just say you were at Sheik?
No, the Iron Sheik, he was, I'm not going to say he was tough to deal with. He was funny to deal with, to be honest. Well, I guess if you were completely green to the world of wrestling and if they gave, just say you came into a locker room, they're like, Sheik's your manager, you'd bug the fuck out. But since I've been around it my whole life, I kind of knew how to like wrangle them and like calm them down a little bit, So he wasn't difficult. He was like fun to work with. The Mouth of the South was super fun to work with. Not super fun, super cool. Want to hear a funny story about him, right?
Oh,
So my brother, Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, right?
Yeah.
This is a fucking funny story. I'll try to get through it as fast as I can. But my brother and this is when I was first breaking in. My brother, he double booked himself / us, and we had one show in Jersey City, which is 15X on the Turnpike, and one show that was in like way South Jersey, like exit 1, which is like far as fuck, like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So anyway, we get to Jersey City first. We're supposed to be on the main event. We're supposed to be my brother, Crowbar, and Norman Smiley. The mouth of the South is the guy running the locker room. My brother tells him, he's like, look it. He's like, I fucked up. I double booked myself. Can I please get on second or third so I can make this shot like an hour and a half away from here? Mouth of the South says, yeah, go ahead. So we go on third. My brother's like, hurry up, say your goodbyes. So match finishes up. I say my goodbyes. We get in the car. We start booking it down the turnpike, right? So we're at exit 1. Around halfway there, I realized my car is on E. I'm like, dude, I have no fucking gas in my car. He's like, well, dude, we have to get this fucking payday. Let's go. So we fucking get to exit 1. There's no GPS or anything at this time. He's like, make a left, make a right. And we get to where we're supposed to be, and it's this big baseball field with these fences everywhere. And Danny Doring is in the ring, with another guy who's supposed to work my brother in the main event. We can't find an entrance, so me and my brother scale the fucking fence and come running. And people think it's part of the show. So we shit can Danny Doring. We shit can the guy Danny Doring's working with. Him and my brother have the match. The place goes fucking crazy. Afterwards, we're telling everybody our story. When it's time to leave, we start driving. The car dies with no gas. And then it starts monsooning on us. And so long story long, we fucking pushed the car and we found some chicks that were in a Geo Metro that drove to a gas station to get a gas can to bring back to my car to then fill it up with gas. So we could get it was one of those stories that me and my brother are pushing the car going like, dude, how are we ever going to tell the story again? You know, while we're in like some desolate place by like the Pennsylvania, Jersey, fucking, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that had to be kind of interesting. Like you were running out on gas at that point, and I guess randomly somebody.
Dude, if you want me to like realize, if you want me to get more into the story, so what's funny is, like my brother, ask anybody who knew him, would after the show, he would just put on his fucking, he'd keep his gear on, put a towel around himself, and that's how he would like go to Denny's like that, or go to whatever bar we went to like that. So rain starts pouring, my car dies of gas. We go down a fucking hill, and we're at a naval base, and these guys are in ponchos going, get the fuck out of here, yelling at us. We're like, can you help us? We're like, no, this is a naval base, get the fuck out of here. So we're like, fuck. So we push the car back up the hill, down another hill, and then my brother's in the middle of a street waving. I'm like, dude, you look like a serial killer. I'm like, you're standing here in a towel. Like, do you think anybody's going to pull over for you? Like, stand back. And then I got in the street, and I flagged down these there was a couple of hot chicks in this Geo Metro. And I'm like, listen, we're fucking, you know, I'm stuck out here. And then my brother like came out from behind just like wearing a towel. I'm like, he's my brother. He's cool. He's not like weird or anything. We're wrestlers. So yeah, they gave us a ride to get a gas can to drive our car back, you know.
Damn, that had to be crazy. But man, so
that was like a Tuesday with us. Like we had a lot of crazy stories.
Yeah. But I guess in today's wrestling, what do you think is lacking in today's pro wrestling? If you're being critical about it,
if I'm being, to be honest, I haven't watched a wrestling show, the entire show since I was actually talking to Rene Dupree about this. I haven't actually seen an entire wrestling program since 2003 when my brother was alive. Like when The Rock came back and was doing because my brother was like, oh dude, he's doing so good. But I'll watch if I see somebody I know. If I see like, you know, Brian Myers or Jay Lethal or Homicide, I'll watch. I think they're really good. If I had to critique it, maybe some of the bumps are maybe like a little bit unnecessary, and I worry that they're gonna fucking hurt themselves. You know, like a lot of the shit that like you land right on your fucking head, like some of that stuff, you know, it just makes me like kind of wince, like, man, I really don't want this poor fella to fucking break his neck, you know. But then anytime you address it with those guys, they'll say, yeah, well, you know, your generation, meaning mine, if you took a chair shot with your hands up, that was considered like, you know, being weak about it. So every chair shot we took was just right to the top of the fucking head. And they're like, yeah, well, you know, you guys are going to have fucking brain damage because of all the fucking chair shots. So I guess if I had anything to critique, you know, it's their art, it's what they do. It would just be the bumps on the head, the you know. Yeah. And a lot of times, I was going to say a lot of suicide dives, but I'm guilty of that myself. I used to like the suicide dive. all in matches too. I felt like it added to it. But I guess when everybody does it, maybe like if I'm really trying to critique, but I can't really critique anybody.
I mean, but there's like an indie style of wrestling that does a little bit too much out of everything. So, like, I get,
right.
I guess since if we're a product of watching a local television show, I feel like a lot of these matches, they don't sell out good storylines at times. They kind of like try to be like the WWE, but I guess in some perspective, a lot of these old school wrestling fans are getting fed up with this type of style of wrestling these days. I mean,
yeah, they were more into the stories and more into like guys that you could believe. Like guys you could believe were a tough guy that would actually kick the shit out of you. Like when you look at Balls, you're like, yo, I wouldn't want to see that guy in a bar. And actually, funny story, real quick, you wouldn't want to see him in a bar. Me and him at a tables, ladders, and chairs match, right, at like an ECW reunion show, and the finish was a fucking another crazy bump. He duct hit me to the table again. So anyway, after there's like a bar in the back, right? That was like just for the boys. But then some like random people started like wandering in. So me and Balls he's like, oh JC, well that was such a fucking great match, man. So some drunk guy comes up to us. He's like, Balls, Johnny, and Balls being Balls is like, hey, not now. I don't want to talk to you now. The guy walks away, gets a shot in a beer, comes back. He's like, Balls, Johnny. Balls is like, I said not now. Guy walks away. Me and Balls drinking, talking. Guy comes back, grabs Balls and me by the shoulders. He's like, Balls, Johnny. Balls goes, you fucking touched me. Picked the guy up and fucking launched him across the bar. Bar stools on the ground. He's standing up going, don't fucking touch me, you cocksucker. I'm holding him back. The promoter's like looking at me going, John, control your friend. I'm like, me control him? What the fuck? But yeah, he was, so I forget how I got there. But yeah, Balls was,
he was a bar fighter. Damn. Don't piss off Balls on the bar fighter.
A little bit volatile,
I can see why you get that EC style of wrestling.
It's funny though, but it was super easy to break his balls. Like, no pun intended. Like me and my brother had the best time just fucking with him. Like you could drive by his house, and so between my house and my brother's house was like I don't know 5 miles, and I stayed at my brother's house like 3/4 of the time. This is like when we're growing up, or when I'm in my 20s, he's in his 30s, and Balls lived right in between us. So if we wanted to take a shortcut and a more interesting cut, we could go past Balls' house, and he'd always be outside. Let's just say, he's outside, he's on a barbecue or something. We're like, oh, dude, those charcoals aren't even getting hot. He's like, they're briquettes. And we're like, oh, those charcoals aren't. You got to put more lighter fluid on those charcoals. Like they're fucking briquettes. Like he's like just like very intense about everything, Very very easy to fuck with.
Kind of seemed like a really fun dude at that point, but
oh yeah,
man, there was a lot of talent wrestlers during that time you were around. I mean, there were some guys who should have got pushes, but I guess this is part of the one that stands out to me with this one right here. Was there any of their wrestlers he thought were overlooked as mid-carders or lower ends that he thought had the skills to be a main eventer like in the past?
Oh, let me see that again.
Ask him, was there any wrestlers he thought were overlooked like mid-carders or lower end that he thought had the skills to be a main eventer in the past? I got to say, your brother, man, he had the ability to be something special.
Yeah. No, yeah, he definitely had the ability. I think what was his, I guess if you want to say problem was he was young and he was shorter, which now wouldn't be a problem. But then it was like Land of the Giants, So I think that was probably, hindered him a little bit. But a lot of guys, just like me knowing the business, like Jamie Noble was like really fucking good. Nunzio was really good. Like, I mean, I'm just I like the smaller guys who do more stuff. That's just like for me, like who I think is like that's the shit like I really enjoy watching. Spike, I guess because I'm bigger.
Spike could have been at least a solid mid.
Oh yeah. I think like me, I'm like 6'2", 300 pounds. So I always liked watching the high flyer kind of guys, So there's a lot of guys that I thought were really solid.
So I guess outside of your brother, which one did you felt like that should have got more of a push or at least got more recognition?
Al Snow, I think. Al Snow was like, he has such a mind for the business, and he's so fucking good. And him and my brother, their matches were fucking classic. Like in Boston, for instance, they would go no shit for an hour and a half. The promoter was trying to stop the show. Like they'd start working, and then Al Snow would give my brother fucking sweet chin music. 1, 2, kick out. My brother go boom, hit him with the fucking pedigree. 1, 2, kick out. And they would just give people, then my brother would Hulk up, do the fucking Hulk Hogan, hit Al Snow with that. Like, they would just go and go and go. And, I think Al Snow is, he's really a fucking special talent. And he's tough as shit, too. I remember he kicked the crap out of me. And, it was actually a match like that where him and my brother were, like, going an hour. And me and Balls were in the locker room watching. Again, Balls is like 10 years older than me, but he's, super hyper, always wanting to get into shit. He's like, let's go out there. Let's do a run. Let's go out there. Because they were, like, having so much fun. And Balls ran out there first, and then I fucking followed him, and we went in, commenced to whomping the hell out of Al Snow and my brother. And Al grabbed me and pulled me aside, and he's like, stop fucking fighting with Balls Mahoney. This is our fucking match, dickhead. I'm like, fuck, sorry. And then my brother did the same to Balls, and both of us kind of like went walking back to the locker room, like, oh fuck. But I think Al he's such like a technician and knows the business so well, and
Yeah, there was a lot of good talent. Like you even said, the size differential. But I think in that era, you could have at least given a guy like Malenko a significant push in his later years, bro. That guy was a technical.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Malenko, like. Those are the guys that when I think of like who were like the best workers, I think of like the Malenkos, the Guerreros, guys like that. It's never the really giant guys that are the best workers, in my opinion. It's the guys who are, who are like, the guys like my brother and the guys like Malenko and Guerrero and Jericho. And, those are the guys that can really turn it on and put on a hell of a show. Owen Hart was fucking phenomenal.
Phenomenal talent.
And it was funny because Owen didn't know how like amazing he was, and I remember British Bulldog used to always break his balls. I was sending you pictures before about like me with Yokozuna hanging out and shit.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my brother took me to all the fucking shows, but it was Davey Boy and Owen, and Davey would be like, he's like, oh, here's my impression of Owen. Oh, I'm Owen Hart. I'm the shits. I think I'm the shits. Like Owen didn't know how good he was, so he'd always be like, oh, that move wasn't perfect. It was like Owen was super critical of himself, and like Davey kind of made fun of him. But Owen Hart was fucking fantastic.
Yeah, he would have easily got over, but at that point of his life, that incident would cause his life. But man, there was just a lot of talent there that was left behind that he could have got, man.
Yeah, and at that time, like like you said, it was all, or like we were saying, it's like the land of the giants. Then it was like all about like bigger and weird gimmicks too, like and I guess. Some people do need gimmicks. I remember, like, my brother saying around, like, 04, 05, he's like, everybody just wants to be, like, Chris Benoit, tough guy with fucking tights on. He's like, everybody can't be that. Like, some people need, this is professional wrestling,
Something different.
Like, we need something different. So, but that era was, like, oversaturated with, like, crazy gimmicks and things like that, in my opinion.
But, I mean, yeah, a lot of these gimmicks had no fit for some of them, but like Chris Benoit was just a one of a kind. Like I think his type of gimmick had some resembles of Dynamite Kid a little bit, if I'm being honest.
Oh, it was, of course. It's like the way, like my brother looked up to Ric Flair, like he was like the fucking end all be all of wrestling. That's how. That's how fucking Benoit looked at Dynamite Kid. He wanted to be like Dynamite Kid, just like my brother wanted.
The flying headbutt was the tribute of what Dynamite Kid did. So
right, yeah, and my brother did the same thing too. But yeah, the Benoit wanted to be Dynamite Kid, like my brother wanted to be Ric Flair. Those are the guys they look up to. All wrestlers start out as marks. I mean, like, what are you in the business for in the first place? Because you fucking love it, unless you have like a, an ulterior motive and want to like try to transition into acting or something. But most of the boys are. Grew up watching it, love it more than anything, and are just happy to be out there doing it,
Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot of, even though you said your career was like cut short from there, would you have, let's say if the tables weren't the other way around, let's say your family was so supportive, they would just go with it all the way. Would you have still continued your wrestling? Did you feel like you left a lot at that point?
I think because at the time I was still raw and like moldable. I mean, I retired at like 24,
Yeah.
25. So Balls, like me and Balls again, got another fight over because so I did the dark match that got him and Axel hired, and then something happened with Axel, and Axel wasn't gonna be there anymore, and Balls was like, "Dude, me and you, we're gonna be the next tag team." I talked to Shane, I talked to everybody, me and you, and then my parents like we can't go through this shit again. This is after my brother passed. And then I had other friends up there, Sabu, Sandman, like if they were in, New York or in Jersey or Philly, and if I wasn't there, someone would call me like, "Kid, where the fuck are you? Why are you not here?" So it was like I was getting pulled in both directions. And wrestling is something you have to have either both feet in or out. You can't have like one in and one out. So if I had to do it over again, I would have stuck with my family, and because now life's good. I have nothing to complain about. My life's pretty awesome, but I could see me and Balls being a tag team, and and a
Yeah.
career in wrestling. But it was tough. I gotta say, like after my brother died, after the first, like he died in 05, 06, 07. Of course, the boys are my support system. Being on the road, seeing everybody, I fucking love everyone. But like, there was a time at the end when I would walk back to the locker room and not see my brother there, and it was kind of the shits. It sucked not having my brother there, basically.
Yeah. So like no matter what happened, it was just like the effect of your brother that kind of just changed your perspective.
Yeah, and just I don't know. Well, I mean, if I'm going to be honest, if my parents weren't so staunchly against it, I probably would be wrestling today or be dead because I was living a crazy lifestyle. But yeah, I'd probably still be in it today. But my parents were just so dead against it, and again, I was in my early 20s. So what could I do?
They didn't want it to be the same mistake as the other one. They just think differently. They think, oh, we don't want this to happen to the next one. So it's like, I guess in their own.
How could you blame them, right? I mean,
yeah, they went through the oldest one, so it's kind of like
they lost one son. Like that's what my mom said. She's like, I lost one son to this. Like I can't have two.
Well, and then if you look back at your career, I mean, you did win the NWA Midwest title, which was your brother that held on before he passed away, but you won the tournament, right?
Yeah, I won the NWA Midwest tournament. I beat Danny Daniels in the finals. I defended it, and then when I retired, I vacated it. So I got to do some cool shit. I won the New Jersey Hardcore title twice. I got the wrestle for WWE. I got to do some shit with TNA. Like I have a pretty cool resume in the business. I could have done a lot more, but I'm happy with what I did.
Yeah. Was there like any other cities or arenas you enjoyed wrestling at, or anything like that?
One of my the ECW arena, just because I grew up there. My first time ever in a wrestling ring on a pay-per-view and on a show was at the ECW arena. So me and my buddies were in 8th grade. We had a backyard wrestling federation. And in the ECW arena, like in the locker room, there was like a giant locker room, and then there was another room with a ring in it, right? So me and my buddies, who, like I said, were in 8th grade, we'd bring all our gear up there. I say gear loosely, but like all our different costumes for all our fucking characters. And you remember the Blue World Order, Blue Meanie, Stevie Richards, and Nova, right? So they're like, yo, we're gonna do the BWO tonight. We're gonna be Hollywood Hulk Hogan,
They're
Diesel.
mocking.
Right. So, but they're like, what do these guys wear? We're like, oh, Diesel wears fingerless gloves. So we're like giving them all the shit from our little gear bag and putting it on them. We're fucking dressing them up and shit. And then we came to the ring. Me and my buddies came to the ring with them holding signs. So I remember coming to the ring. I was holding a sign. I was the first one of my friends. And I was like 12, 13. I was fat. Not fat, a little chubby. And I went and I tripped over the guardrail and I fell right on my face. And I was so fucking embarrassed. I got up. I walked around the ring with the BWO sign. It's on the DVD, The Rise and Fall of ECW. I can't escape that fucking clip. But I remember when I got back to the locker room, First person I see is Louis Spicolli. He's like, "Oh, you took your first fucking bump on TV," and everybody's like clapping. I'm fucking mortified. I'm like, "No, somebody grabbed my leg," but in reality, I just fucking fell down. You know.
That's kind
But
of weird.
yeah, no, it was just funny because I was, I was this kid. I was just, I was young, and I like
Yeah.
again, I was in like seventh, eighth grade.
So the arenas in Philadelphia, I think that's where they had the ECW events, was in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The ECW arena. That's where I took my first bump, aka fell over the fucking the guardrail when I was 13, and then I got to wrestle there as when I was older. I wrestled Pitbull #2 there. I worked with Trent Acid there. Yeah, I worked there a couple times. So that was like right up there with working with WWE for me. I'm like, I want to work the ECW arena.
Yeah, I look at it this way, man. Like, you had your fun, but was there like one arena that you didn't like? Like, man, this place is trash.
What's the one I didn't like? No, I can't really say that because
Can't be a heel.
yeah, well, I mean, I always had fun. Like, I think what people don't really know about my brother, like, I know like the dark side of the ring and things, like a lot of things seem serious, but 95% of the time, all we did was fucking laugh, crack jokes. You know what I'm saying? And like, I don't know if I co-authored a book about my brother with John Cosper. It came out 2 years ago. It's people fucking love it. Chris Candido, No Gimmicks Needed, and I tell a lot of the stories from the two of us on the road, just like crazy shit we got into and situations we got ourselves out of, and like a lot of just funny stories from the road and shit. And so, although his story may seem like serious and sad, the reality is like, we were laughing 99.9% of the time. The two of us were just cracking jokes, having a good time. So it's I loved it. I had a great time. That was like some of the greatest times of my life.
Was there like any other like rib incidents in the locker room that you got to see or you got yourself involved in?
Yeah, I'm sure there are. Fuck.
Yeah, they don't do it in today's wrestling as much as they used to, but those were like the funny.
No, yeah, it's a lot fucking different. A lot of times, if Tammy was all like fucking sewing it up or something, I'd find a way to fuck with her. Me and my friends would like pelt her with snowballs or something, like, because she was just a pain in the ass. I'm trying to think of any good ribs, but I mean, a lot of the shit I would do to my brother, like we'd crash at Sandman's house, and I remember one time, it was right after Halloween. We stayed at Sandman's house, and my brother was fucking. He was sleeping, and I took the, in like Halloween, there's that black paint you could spray in your hair to make it black. I did that. I fucking made his hair black. I super glued his fucking shoes to the rug. I super glued his bag to the rug, and I covered his face in peanut butter. I don't know why. We were all hanging out, smoking weed, drinking. I covered his face in peanut butter. Yeah, and then the next morning he woke up and he's just like, the fuck, and looked and his hair was black. And then yeah, so I got my brother pretty good, a couple times. And Tammy too. I got her pretty good. Yeah, there's if I think, I'm sure I'll think of more, but it's more me like, ribbing my brother or, I remember one time one of my first matches, I was super green, but this isn't exactly a rib, but it's funny. There was going to be a pull apart between me and him, and this was like my third time in the ring. He's like, yeah, well, we'll get together, we'll pull apart. Anyway, he fucking pushes me, and he like looks at me, and I go boom, 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 and I punched him in one eye, other eye, and I just had these two fucking black eyes, and I felt terrible. Like on the way home, I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, I fucking beat your face all up. I'm like, yo, give me a black eye, He's like, no. So we get back to his house, order a pizza, we're sitting around hanging. I'm like, dude, just give me a fucking black eye, won't you? Come on, fucking hit me, pussy. And then he's like, I'm not gonna. And all of a sudden, he fucking punched me in the face. And then we had to meet my mom and my sisters for breakfast the next day. So he had two big black eyes. I had one. Mom's like, what the fuck? Like we both look like we did beat the shit out of each other. And that's why she's like, oh, look at the Moron Brothers. There's a chapter in the book called The Moron Brothers about like our fucking adventures. But yeah, we had a blast, dude.
Yeah, it had to be a blast just to have a little fun with the wrestlers and all a bunch of stuff. I mean, since you look back at the wrestling career, it is what it is. But was there like any other interesting stories about your brother before we end this?
goddamn, there's fucking so many. I don't even know where I would even. I don't know where you want like funny, interesting. I mean,
More
there's a ton
entertaining, yeah,
of funny ones.
funny at least.
I'll give you a funny one. All right. So my brother, you know the dude. All right. So when my brother was in Smoky Mountain, there was this dude Bruiser Bedlam. You remember Bruiser Bedlam?
Oh, that.
He was Johnny Canine. He had a bench of like 700 pounds. Crazy bench press, right? So my brother was 19. I was 9. Me and my family went to visit him out in Tennessee, and Bruiser Bedlam's like, "Hey kid, come here." He's like, "If you're a 3-plate guy, don't even talk to me. If you're a 4-plate guy, you can get me a cold drink. If you're a 5-plate guy, we can hang out." I go to my brother. I'm like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "He means bench like 500 pounds." I'm like, "All right." Fast forward, I'm 20 years old. My brother's 30. Balls is 30, and we're all lifting together at this gym, Jersey Shore Fitness Shop, right? And I'm getting strong. I'm getting strong. Every week, my bench is going up. And we get to the day where there's 5 plates on each side. That makes a 495. I put a 5 on either other side. Now it's 505, right? I'm like, here we go. Fucking big milestone in my life. I'm 20 years old. I'm banging out for a double. I'm fucking stoked. High fives. Boom, boom, boom. So there's this place, Barry's Bar, down the street from the gym. We're like, let's go celebrate over Barry's and have a couple of drinks. So we go there. My brother didn't drink a lot, right? We go there. He has a shot, a beer, another beer. And he's like, bartender, check out my little brother. 20 years old, man, bench 500 pounds today. 20 years old, bench 500 pounds today. Bartender's going, how old is he? Winking his eye. Brother's like, he's 20 years old, man. Check him out. Look at his arms. He's fucking jacked. 20 years old, 500 pounds. This guy right here, 20. The bartender's going, how old? My brother's not realizing the fucking drinking age is 21. The bartender keeps going like, how old? He's like, what are you, fucking deaf? He's 20. I'm like, yo, numbnuts. I'm like, the fucking drinking age is 21. He's like, oh, shit. And then, me and Balls cracked up. And we'd always break his balls about that. Because he didn't get through his, maybe he's one of those, he just kept telling the bartender that I was 20 over and over again. I'm like, dude, the drinking age is 21, you retard.
Yeah, and it's 21. So I guess when he said
that's when he just kept saying, check out my little brother, man, 20. Look at his arms. Check him out. My brother's Diesel, 20 years old, right here. And we've been going there for like a year. You know what I'm saying? But it was funny because at one time, fucking Balls goes that same day. Balls goes 2. I was like, what? Mr. Wrestling number 2? What does he have to do with anything? And he just wasn't understanding that the drinking age was 21. It was funny.
Yeah, had to be, yeah. Oh,
all right, another quick funny one. We'd always go with Massachusetts, right? Yeah. And from here, like mile-wise, is not very far, but the fucking traffic is insane. So anyway, when you're, it'll take like 8 hours for us to get to the place in Boston. So we're on this 95 for fucking ever. The traffic sucks. Me and him are arguing with each other. We get off the exit. I'm wearing white board shorts, no shirts, the middle of summer. The hotel is within our sights. I fucking take a joint. I light it up. My brother goes, what the smoke? And he fucking turns the fucking vent all the way on. The cherry from the joint blows down my fucking pants, down my board shorts. I'm patting it, going, oh fuck. He takes his yellow Gatorade, dumps it right in my crotch of the yellow board shorts as we're pulling into the hotel. We get into the hotel, and there's like these hot chicks at the counter who are like giving us our room keys. And he's like, oh, my brother pissed his pants. I was just so defeated. I'm like, yeah, I pissed my pants. Just give me the room key. Every trip we went on, I have like a bunch of fucking funny stories from,
Well, so that Gatorade had to be the lemon lime flavor, right? Where it made it look
like the lemon lime flavor, and I just had on white board shorts, so it looked like I pissed my fucking pants.
Oh, man, that's a killer.
We were in the car for 8 hours. The hotel's in sight. I light up the joint. Cherry falls into my lap, and I'm going, shit! And he just takes the Gatorade. I'm just like, motherfucker. Yeah. And then it looked like I pissed my pants.
That just had to be a little bit. See, those are the old ribs that you don't do nowadays. It's like
he thought he was helping me, but then when he saw when I walked out of the car, like I pissed my pants, it was funny. I mean, I even had to admit it was funny. Like, what are you gonna do?
Like years later, you'll look at it and say, "Yeah, it was kind of funny." Like even with Yeah, even with the injury back then, when I was like kind of like jumping excited, hopping like a little freaking like little girlish a little bit because I was gonna get something, and then the next second I slip and fall and crack my ankle. I'm like, shit. like you look back and say that shit sucks, but then you look back and say maybe that's what I did was stupid then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Well, like I said, I was laughing at it like later on. I was like I said, we were just sitting in fucking traffic for 9 hours. So when we finally see the hotel, that's when it looks like I pissed my pants, and there just happens to be like 2 hot chicks working the fucking front desk.
That had to be the worst for him by far. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
I guess if you kind of like look at it, it had to be at the worst time with those ladies, man. Like, man, your brother just pulled the
Right.
rim. But was he like the funniest? Was he like the funniest?
Oh yeah, no, hilarious, dude. He was so quick-witted. Like he's he's funny as hell. He could have been a fucking comedian if he wasn't a wrestler. He was hilarious. Just
I heard
just
some
very.
Yeah, but have you ever heard of New Jack's kind of shit or not?
Oh yeah, me and New Jack are fucking friends. Yeah. Well, he passed away, but we were boys. Yeah.
But he was funny, right?
Oh, New Jack was hilarious, dude. Have you ever heard about the Balls New Jack beef and how that started?
Yeah.
I had to fucking mediate that. So I'll tell this fucking story real quick, right? So Balls, I drive past Balls' house, and he's outside. He's like, "Come here." I'm like, "What happened?" He's like, "Dude, me and Jack, one of us is gonna fucking die." I'm like, "What the fuck happened?" He's like, "So I'm in this hotel room with this chick, and her husband is in a wheelchair. All right." He's like, "She was giving me a massage, just a massage. That's it." He goes, her husband rolls over in the wheelchair and goes, "That's enough," poof, and punches the chick in the face. Balls goes, "Hey, stop that. Don't do that." And he goes, "So the next night, after the show, I'm in the room with the girl and the husband in the wheelchair. Guy in the wheelchair comes over from somewhere, pulls out a bat, goes, 'That's enough.' Pink, hits his wife in the head with the bat. Balls goes, 'Now I'm friends with her. This isn't cool.' Takes the wheelchair guy, runs him out of the hotel room, dumps him out of the wheelchair, shuts the door. All right? Wheelchair guy somehow gets back into his wheelchair, calls New Jack, and says, 'Balls is in the room with my girlfriend, and she has Hep C.' So that's what he told Jack. I called Jack after I talked to Balls. I'm like, 'Dude, Jack, what the fuck happened with Balls and a fucking girl and a guy in a wheelchair?' He's like, 'Yo, they was doing some sick shit. They was in that room. They threw the guy out. They were in the room. They were cutting on each other, drinking each other blood, writing fucking blood on the walls, devil kind of crazy shit.' He's like, 'He's putting all the boys at risk doing shit like that.' And he was like fucking bugging out. So trying to find the middle ground of what actually happened between Balls' story and his story. But yeah, it's like only in wrestling can a fucking story like that, be so fucking drastically different. Maybe the truth's somewhere in the middle. But yeah, like the guy was in a wheelchair. Where the fuck did he pull the baseball bat from? But
Yeah, it's a strange story how you look at it. But yeah, dude, had to be some good ones right there. I mean, some good, interesting story facts. I mean, even with your brother working with some of those guys, they had to be some of the most interesting personality guys.
Oh, of course, yeah. Like, dude, when I was a kid growing up, like my job would to be like my brother would give me little tasks to do like around the arena. He's like, "Oh, New Jack's looking for you." I'm like, "Hey, what's up, Jack?" He's like, "I'm gonna boost you up into this dumpster. See if you can find me any cool weapons." I'm like, "All right." Like I found a frying pan. He's like, "All right, throw that down." I would be like New Jack's little helper, find them all fucking weapons and shit. It's so hard to say because every day with those guys was a fucking story. So it's like, I miss Louis Piccoli a lot. I feel like he needs to be talked about more because he was such a affable guy and he had such a great personality. And, when I think about those times, I think about Louis, Bubba, Devon, New Jack, like just growing up in that, that atmosphere was just super cool,
Yeah, those guys were, I guess those two guys you're mentioning, those two were Dudley type characters, right?
Yeah, Bubba Ray and New Jack. I'm sorry, Bubba Ray and Devon. Like,
and then a couple of his posses, those other posse groups right there on ECW.
Right. There was obviously Spike, and there was Big Dick Dudley. There was Sign Guy Dudley, Psycho Sam. There was a bunch of them.
And then the one with the sign or the manager one.
Yeah, Sign Guy. Yep.
I gotta try to get him on. I gotta try to reach out, but he never gets back on me on those messages, man. But like, yeah, dude, I like all these interesting. Yeah.
It was like it really was like a big fucking family. I know it sounds cliche because people say it like that, but it was. It's like I was like the young guy running around back there.
Justin Credible was a cool one. Like when I got him on, he gave me some good stories.
Oh yeah, dude, PJ's the fucking man.
Oh yeah, he's cool as hell. Like I mean, out of all the interviews, he was telling me a lot of backstage policy that was funny as hell.
Yeah, dude. No, I have some good ones. I don't know which which ones to pull out. I gave you some good
Yeah,
ones.
he gave me a few.
I got a funny one about Bam Bam. This isn't like about like drugs or anything crazy, but Bam Bam. So he moved from Jersey to Pennsylvania, right? And he opened up Bam Bam Bigelow's sub shop and ice cream parlor, and it was on like 3-4 acres of land, right? And he's like, so my brother had known Bam Bam since they were kids, you know, and they were tight. Obviously, they were triple threat, everything. But Bammer's like, yo, Chrissy, Johnny. Bammer bought the ECW ring, and it was here, like in a ring truck in at our house, basically. He's like, I just bought this land for the grand opening of my place. I want to do Bam Fest. You guys bring up the ring. We're gonna have wrestling. We're gonna have live music, rides for the kids, bouncy castles, all kind of shit, you know, to kick off the opening of his new place. So we have this big festival, Bam Fest. We have wrestling. There's live bands playing, bouncy castles, all this shit, and there's a tug of war contest, right? So the tug of war team is me, my brother, my cousin Vinny, my friend BJ, my friend Bob, Balls, and Bammer, and we're killing everybody. We're just eating everyone alive. And then in the finals, they come up against the professional tug of war team. These people are each like 500 pounds. They have cleats on. They're chalking their fucking hands up and shit. And my brother's like, all right, guys, huddle up. He's like, yo, there's no way we're beating these fat fucks. He's like, let's get them like really going. And on the count of 3, let's let go of the fucking rope. So we're like, all right. So there's a picture of us all like holding the rope with like sinister grins on our face, you know? So these fat fucks flew far, like a lot farther than we thought. Like they went like bowling pins, toppling into the fucking parking lot. One of them hit their head on a fucking ring truck. They jumped up for a second like they were going to do something, and they saw like all the wrestlers forming and kind of like back down. But it was fucking hilarious because we thought they were just going to kind of like fall down, and they flew like a fucking block, half a block. It was fucking funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bammer's Dark Side is on tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Tune in for that one. But yeah, bro, maybe we can do some more of those. Like maybe the next interview, maybe we can get a couple more people interested. But dude, I mean, I like how you gave me the explanation of your brother's story and what you did in the business. I mean, for a lot of guys who just follow in the same footsteps of their family, include like, you know, it's a big shadow to fill in for your brother, but your brother could have been something spectacular if it wasn't for what happened, you know?
I know, it's crazy to think that he died at 33, you know? Like I always thought he was like this big, like this older, wiser fucking, you know, and I'm fucking 41 and I still feel like a kid. You know what I'm saying? I can't believe he was so young but accomplished so much, you know? So, and it's just great just that we're here talking about him right now. Like, I'll tell you what, like in closing, I'll say like when I helped, you know, write the book for him, about him, like the biography, it made me think. In like 2003, he put like on our parents' coffee table, he put like a Von Erich's book or something. And this is before he got clean and everything. And my mom, and he was thumbing through it. My mom's like, Christopher, is this what you're gonna do? You're gonna end up being in a coffee table book? And he's like, Mom, if people still remember me 15 years from now, I'd be overjoyed to be in a coffee table book. Like he just wanted to be remembered. He wanted to be like, you know, leave his stamp on the business. So he definitely did that because here we are, you know, in 2023, you know, talking about him. So, you know, I'm just really proud of him and what he did. And of course, I love him to death.
Yeah, so. I mean, he was inspiring for those other undersized wrestlers that should have got some pushes. Now you look at other talented wrestlers who's got the significant pushes, and nobody looks at the size anymore. Like there was a lot of guys, but I think the only one who got more of the push in the later years was Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero was the most undersized wrestler, but he was the one that people got over with, and then Rey Mysterio got a push. Chris Benoit, if it wasn't for what I can't speak on behalf of the incident, but he was exceptionally a good wrestler.
He was definitely one of the best. And what I'll say about Benoit is I knew him casually, and then right before the incident happened, there was a house show in Atlantic City. He rolled up with Jamie Noble, and me and him like had a chat, and we exchanged numbers. And I called him, and it was like, you're the voicemail is full or whatever, and then I heard what happened, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ. That was like the thing that I kind of like. That's when I left the business. I'm like, this is too much because my brother died, Bammer died, and then I'm like that whole shit happened, and I was kind of, plus I was getting pressure from my family, so.
Oh, here's one more question before we end this. Just to answer this one last time. Ask him, does WWE need to take accountability for wrestlers' death as a result of steroid use because of grueling schedules?
I could say yes, but I'm not going to because Vince kind of says plainly, I don't give careers, I give people opportunities, which is somewhat true, which is true. And a lot of the guys do that to get the physiques they need to. So I can't. Yeah, I can't fucking fault Vince for doing that. I mean, or taking accountability because it's not him. He's not. Yeah. I think when people have their eyes open, I think when they get into the business and they kind of know what's like. Coming. You know what I mean? It's like if you choose to live this life, that's probably going to be part of your lifestyle. If you're somebody who's. So yeah, I don't think any of it would fall on him. I could see he could be a scapegoat for it, but I think it lies with the person. I don't think he should be responsible for that. I could argue both ways, but the way I really feel is I think he runs a business and that's what he does.
Yeah, if he sees greener in you and he feels like you need to get a push and get bulked up to this, you got to do exactly what's necessary. It's like doing a job. When your boss says do this, you got to do it.
Yeah, and I don't even think I doubt he has to really tell people, hey, do this. People kind of know what the fuck to do, and they they know the kind of physiques that they need, and so yeah, I can't fault him for being a businessman, and Vince has been in this business his entire life,
Yeah, it's been his business.
How many stories do I have from being into Vince is a fucking damn near 80 years old. Like he's been around. He is the fucking business.
Yeah, his dad ran the business, and then he became the business. Now it's like at a point where he might have to be forced to let his daughter or Triple H run the business.
Yeah, but yeah, I can't really fault him for people's choices. People make their own choices, and if they some people feel like they need that, and whatever, maybe they do because
Well, since I've kind of experienced the tragedy of my brother, what was that reaction felt when you heard about your brother passing away? Was it just like you go from then and now?
When I heard about it, I was there, dude. I was, it's like he flew back from Florida. It kills me because I talked to him on the phone. He's like, dude, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just chilling. You want to come over, bring Goodfellas over or something and watch a movie? I'm like, yeah, all right. And then I'm like, well, are you just going to go to sleep? I'll just come over in the morning and pick you up for breakfast. He's like, all right. Then next morning, I hear he's in the hospital. And I'm like, fuck. And, I fucking got in my car. I started speeding to the hospital. Make a long story short, I get into the hospital. As soon as I bust in, I'm like, where's Chris Candido's room? And the doctor's like, have you seen any family? I'm like, I am the family. And I rush in. He's on a hospital bed. And I'm just like, yo, Cook, what are you doing? Come on, wake up. And then, I was, pushing on his chest, trying to wake him up. But then I grabbed his hand, and I could feel there wasn't blood flowing. And I'm like, holy shit, he's fucking gone. Like, it was a shock. I was in shock. And then I left, I went walking. I found a church. I said a couple of prayers. And then I went into my car. I didn't know what the fuck to do. And then I saw my mom pull up, and her and my little sisters go running in the hospital, and then running back out, screaming and crying. Like, fuck. It's still, it's fucked up, dude. Like,
it still stinks for some people that has to go through that loss. Like my brother, which was 4 years ago, he passed away.
I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah, my biggest regret was not able to visit him because I couldn't deal with that. That mental mindset. And I guess some of my family understood why. Because if I were to look at that man that wasn't feeling well, it would have killed me inside mentally.
Yeah.
But I felt like my brother was my inspiration too in some ways, man. He got me into doing some wrestling, got me into watching pro wrestling, got me into like doing some football and a bunch of stuff. But
Nice.
I kind of feel the same way when it comes down to when you look at that way, man. Like when you see like the way you've dealt with losing your brother, bro, it just haunts you. Like it haunts you mentally.
Dude,
Like
yeah, I
like,
have
dude,
dreams.
I'm still hitting with that shit to this day. But since you kind of felt that pain, bro, it's like I can relate to it, but it doesn't compare to what your brother did. He was a great wrestler.
But great wrestler or not great wrestler, it doesn't mean either of us loved our brothers any more or less. You know what I mean?
They were just like our human beings, but he was your hero. My brother was my hero too.
Right? Like, and I dude, my brother's in my dreams like 4 to 5 nights a week. It's still because, like I said, we were together every fucking day. So
that's what the feeling was with my brother too.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, but your brother trained you, bro, and to this day, we got to appreciate those undersized wrestlers, those guys who paved the way. Chris Candido was greener than it was, bro. He could have, if he was still alive to this day, I think he would have at least had more. He would have at least had some world title pushes, at least maybe at some other promotions.
Oh, of course, and he had a mind for the business. Like I said, he had a one-track mind, man. All he thought about was wrestling. That's it, And
Yep.
He was never leaving the business. I remember somebody asked me, I forget who. They were like, "Did your brother ever consider what he would do when he retired?" I'm like, "Retired?" I'm like, "Before or after he got a fucking lobotomy?" I'm like, "He was staying in with his retire. He was going to be like Freddie Blassie, come out there with a fucking cane and be like a heel manager. Like he wasn't leaving the business."
I think it was in his passion. Even after wrestling, he probably would have did managing. Like he was even training some guys who were going to be superstars.
Yeah, of course. That's he had a one-track mind.
Yeah, you stick with what you're good at, so it happens from here. But hey, business-wise, man, we still gotta keep it rolling, bro. Like life goes on, and even 4 years ago to this day, I still had to live with it. He's gone, but in a better way, I had to be positive about it and just move forward with life. I can't let it hold me back.
Right. Yeah. Just think about the memories and the good stories, and and then keep it moving. And your brother's got your back and he's watching you, guiding your moves.
Yeah, especially all that kind of stuff. Yeah, when you go through all that tragedy, man, it can either make you stronger or make you go through that dark times. But hey, maybe in the near future I'll get you back on, bro. We can definitely chop it up some more. But I know you probably got some stuff to do. We've been going on pretty well. But for anybody else who wants to get you on their show, man, tell them where they can find your social media platform and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I just started Instagram. You can check me out, Jonny Candido, JONNY CANDIDO 118. At Twitter, at Candido 118. And that's where you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram. I just got Instagram. My little sisters made me get it. My girlfriend made me get it. So I posted like 5 times, but I'm gonna start doing that shit more. But yeah, you can find me there, Twitter, Instagram. I got Chris Candido shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. My brother's books at EatSleepWrestle.com, and it's on Amazon. Chris Candido, no gimmicks needed. So yeah, check it out, and I'll be around sharing stories, having fun. Yeah,
for sure, man. But thank you for your time, bro, and for everybody else, thank you guys for tuning in. And as always,
yeah, thanks guys.
Yeah,
and thank you for having me on.
Oh, anytime, bro. More than welcome. We'll definitely chop it up pretty soon, man. But for everybody else, man, this is me and Jonny Candido, and we're out.